grandfather was one of the most important pioneers in jazz music, actually, in the 50s and 60s in Egypt. He was a drummer. His name was Bib Heneine. He was one of the godfathers of jazz and Latin music in Egypt in that time. So it's in the family. So when I was very young, I was like seeing all the instruments in my grandfather's house, percussion, the piano, the drums, everything, and the guitar. So I was exposed to the instruments, and I was listening to music a lot. My mother and father also, they are very into listening to music, from the traditional Egyptian songs to the French music to the pop, to jazz, to big band, to traditional things, like mix and match between the different styles. So I was exposed to this by my father and mother, and my cousin, actually, he also he's also a drummer, and he's like 6 years older than me. He was the one that really introduced me when I was a little bit not a child, like maybe let's say 12 years old. At that time, he introduced me to some Cuban music, some Santana, some this sound, and some jazz tunes. So I was more into the enjoyment of listening to this. I listened to tons of musicians, but the closest to my heart are Michel Petrucciani. Actually, he is the guy that for me is like having all the mix I love totally, because I'm from a French school, and I love the French like influences, and he's into Brazilian music, which I adore. And he is very bebop, very classical. So he has all the mix I would love to have in my life, musically. So that guy is like a big reference for me. I'm into Kenny Barron a lot, the Keith Jarrett Trio a lot. I'm into the Ray Brown sound, Ron Carter, Gonzalo Rubalcaba, Paquito de Rivera, Astor Piazzolla, Bill Evans, of course, Thelonious Monk. I'm into Chad Baker, Freddie Hubbard, Jazz Messengers in general, Philly Joe Jones, many, many, many influences. At the beginning, I was thinking that only jazz music it was improvised, or you have a context, you have a skeleton, but you still express yourself through the language by knowing how the structure of that language and how to express yourself and have the vocabulary. So having that freedom of expression is always about jazz, which is very specific, but still it has a mix between the beauty of the harmonies of the classical music, and it has the rhythm and the soul of the African music. So it has a certain mix, which is actually like what's happening in Egypt in a different way, because of our geographical position. We're in Africa, and we're still very exposed to different cultures. We get from the others a lot, and we get inspired, and we're still rooted. So it's part of actually the Egyptian music and the Arabic music still, which has improvisation. And when you go to the Baroque, you see that these people, they were improvising, and they had chord progressions, and they were playing on it. So I think the essence of enjoying the expression and the improvisation in a logical way, because I'm also an engineer. So I have the artistic part, and I'm still an engineer in myself. So so I love how the beauty of the logic of connecting ideas and the bebop language, and how maybe it's more for musicians, but still I love it as an engineer also, which is a big part. But at the same time, it's still not only the jazz that I like. I like music that is touching me in general in different ways. So I don't want to say it's only jazz. but jazz had the mix that was interesting for me from the classical and from the African rhythms, which is maybe lacking in the classical music. It's not that rhythmical. Of course, it has rhythm in it, but it doesn't have the African soul of the rhythm, which is the European music. And the African, they are not into harmonies like what happened in the classical music. So like I felt it had everything in one place. Traditional Egyptian music, it's a great heritage full of beautiful, actually rich melodies. And that's something that maybe the European music or the Western music lacks, which is the intervals that you don't feel and find in the European music or the Western music, because of these intervals in the the Eastern scales. You have probabilities that you cannot find in the Western scales. So yes, the Eastern music lacks harmony. There were a lot of trials to work on harmony in the Eastern music, but because of the limitation of the quarter tones to put harmony for it, so there were trials from a lot of musicians to match between the harmonies of the Western music and the scales or the maqams of the Eastern music. So you will find beauty in the melodies and the grooves, the rhythms, because it still has an African source. We're in Africa. So it's very beautiful in its own way. Improvisation is in the air. And the essence of for example, the bebop phrasing, people shouldn't, in that time that you're playing now, of course, you can play the traditional bebop totally straight ahead and have the traditional sound, but still you can implement the language in any other styles, which makes it always new and fresh. So the idea of having, yes, the very traditional sound of jazz as is in that period of time that we're living, maybe it's dying in the form, the traditional form, and it's struggling, but it's not struggling as a content, because it's the language, it's a language, it's an approach that you can use in any type of music, which makes it very fluid and very implemented in anything. So it will never die because it's still the essence of the sound. And all the big stars in like, if you say Michael Jackson, which is totally pop, like Quincy Jones is the main producer, like all the inputs, he has the background. It doesn't mean he has to show it to me directly in my face and say, listen to bebop, but he understands harmony, he understands the production, of course, of the sound design itself. But I'm talking about the harmonies and the voicings and the players that recorded in these recordings, they had a jazz background. So most of the big names in any styles, hip hop, if you listen to Robert Glasper and you say how he's sampling from Ahmed Jamal and he's taking the ideas, it's coming all from these roots.